The 2022 midterm elections are finally coming into clear focus now that the November elections are a bit past us. We now have updated polling figures, which, though they may not be accurate, are certainly devastating to the Democrats, showing that the Republicans have a massive advantage going into 2022, and well, that should give them a lot of license. I mean, if they were a sane party, then they would go and lean in to what got them a lot of the great wins that they got in 2021, most namely the Virginia governorship, where they won not by shying away from their cultural issues, not by shying away from issues like CRT, education, any of the myriad Democrat communistic policies, and attacking those policies and being staunchly against them. No, instead, it was won by leaning in to those positions, by leaning in to the attacks against the Democrats. And yet, that would only be the case if they were a sane party, or I guess you could say a sincere party, which I must say, the Republican Party at this point is not a sincere party, mostly because of the rot which has been infecting the party for decades and still has many of its tendrils slinking throughout much of the upper echelon, namely in the U.S. Senate, where they have been trying to covertly help the Democrats on every single issue they could possibly justify. And one of the ones that they've done most recently is with the debt limit increase, which you might have heard of, and if you were just looking at the headlines and not reading into the stories, you might have thought that the Democrats got this passed on a purely party line vote, that the Republicans were standing in firm opposition to what the Democrats were doing and printing more funny money and making a problem that was already a massive issue even worse over the long run. But you would be wrong, because though the Republicans did not vote for the bill proper, they functionally did so because they themselves voted to lower the standard for actually getting it through. You see, normally to raise the debt ceiling, you have to have 60 votes in the Senate, but no reasonable Republican and none of the base would ever accept the Republicans actually voting for such a thing. And so there was no way they were going to get 60 votes on the bill. But, you know what they could do? Well, they could try and pull a fast one. And what they could do is they could lower the barrier to entry and have 14 Republicans vote for that to get around the filibuster, and then have all of those Republicans then pretend that they're against the debt limit increase when the actual bill comes up for a vote. And this is not technically a lie, it's just political game making, and this is what Mitch McConnell in particular does best, though whether he does it for the benefit of the populist right or whether he does it for the benefit of the Democrats is really a crapshoot, but it is not technically a full-on lie, because many of these articles will still have the explanation in the body text, and even the Republicans will on some level admit to voting for this thing, though certainly not particularly very publicly, and we'll try to keep it as quiet as possible. But they won't, the RINOs are not going to be satisfied by simply moving around things, hiding the ball, but not necessarily lying outright. They will go all the way, and this is no better seen than with Alex Stovall, who was I believe still is, a Republican Senate candidate in Arizona, and he comes in the mold of many of Arizona's previous Senate candidates, namely John McCain, in that he lies about his positions outright, and he was fully willing to pretend to be all in favor of election integrity, to be all in favor of the border wall, or all sorts of red meat positions for much of the Republican Party. But if you got him behind closed doors and had maybe a couple of undercover Project Veritas journalists in front of him, well, his tune changed quite significantly.
The Republican Party is disgusting to me. The stuff that they're doing, it should be criminal, and they should all be thrown in prison. Yes.
Yeah.
The McCarthys, the Cawthorns, the whole audit bullcrap thing that they're doing. I listen to what my counsel tells me. That's when they say go get an endorsement from somebody, I say, all right, cool. No, I don't have have respect for Candace Owens anymore. Will I take her donation and take her donors? Absolutely, but it goes no further than that.
Yeah.
I would never invite her to a Christmas party.
And the response to this tune change was quite predictable, with many people simply proclaiming that he should never be allowed anywhere near the Republican candidacy for the Senate. Luckily, this was caught out before the actual primary was done, and so this occurrence could be foregoed in the long term, so that's great. But recognize that this is not the only time this has happened. Not only do we have a past experience with Sanchez, I've already mentioned John McCain is one of the most prolific examples of rhinoisms, and to have someone even closer to home for me, Mitt Romney is an absolute rhino, and he will lie about his positions on a very regular basis. But it will happen with even unknowns like Stovall. And so you need to watch these people. You need to watch the rhinos. You need to make sure that they know they can't get away with any of this. That if they ever show their colors, and they do on many occasions, because liars are never as good at lying as they seem to think they are, you will never let it go. You will never say, oh, well, I'll still vote for them. Even if the difference is Republican, rhino, or Democrat. Just don't vote. Make them completely unelectable. As I've been saying, rhinos are worse than Democrats, because rhinos, on top of going along with many of the Democrats' ruinations of the country, they will never turn back the clock and disallow you in many ways from actually getting someone good in because of their incumbent advantage. Would you prefer to have one Democrat senator for a singular term, or would you rather have a Republican senator in name only for 50 terms until the man dies of brain cancer, which he's had for years, while sitting in the office and preventing you from having actual representation in the Senate, which, by the way, is exactly what John McCain, sorry, I get the two mixed up, it's exactly what John McCain did when he was in the Senate. He left Arizona without representation entirely because he could get away with it, because he had the incumbent advantage, and because people did not kick him out. Even at the general, do not elect these people. Do not vote for them. It's okay not to vote for the Democrat. I'm not telling you to do that. That would be equally awful, frankly. Just don't vote for them either. Don't take active action to put in someone who is worse than the Democrat. In that case, if you're voting lesser of two evils, the lesser of two evils is the Democrat, because even if they do try to ruin things, at least you can get them on the next go-around. At least it's a temporary problem rather than a permanent rot and termite within your respective Republican Party. That's what you need to do. You need to make these people unelectable, and you need to watch them, because they will try to get away with these sorts of things. And I think that's where I'm going to leave you guys off. If you enjoyed that video, do subscribe down below and check me out on other platforms. I'm on BitChute, I'm on Odyssey, I'm on Rumble, I'm on Brighteon, I'm on all those places. And I'm also on Gab, Minds, and Getter. If you want to check out all of those, links are down in the description. I'm KelKidman, this has been Breaking on the Daily, and I'm out.